Welcome to Taxidermy Truths, where we discuss the ins and outs of not only the taxidermy process, but the influences on the hunting community as a whole. With over 25 years in the wildlife and taxidermy industry, I host open conversations with artists, experts, and industry giants. From sustainable utilization to shipping rates, we dig into the reality of the experience after the safari and hear real stories worth remembering. Hi there, my name is Doug Cocroft. Welcome to Taxidermy Truths. As the first official episode of this podcast, let's start right in the beginning. I've often been asked, where did it all begin? What was your motivation to get into taxidermy? And how did Splitting Image Taxidermy come about? So, what better way to start our podcast than to start right in the beginning? I started off in the wildlife industry in about 1995. I had a tremendous opportunity to work on various game reserves as a jeep jockey, a guide. Guided clients from all over the world and showed them the wonders of the Eastern Cape and Southern African bush, wildlife, and everything that the outdoors had to offer. It was a very special time. I saw incredible things and traveled throughout Africa with clients and without, photographing animals, filming animals, and just experiencing wildlife. My love for wildlife came from a lot earlier than that. I was brought up in a family that was involved in hunting and farming, and thus spent a lot of time between South Africa, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Tanzania. It was a privileged upbringing in that I got to spend time in places that opened my imagination and broadened my horizons to exactly what wildlife can offer. From the migrations to Victoria Falls ecosystems to South Africa and the incredible biodiversity in the Eastern Cape, I've been exposed to so much of what makes wildlife absolutely incredible. So with that in mind, I left school, moved into, like most young guys, moved into the big world and had dreams of doing all sorts of things, never realizing my path would ever take me towards taxidermy. My initial years in wildlife, I started with guiding, as I said, and enjoyed some incredible sights from lions and wild dogs and bat-eared foxes. You name it, I'd pretty much been exposed to it on a game drive. And thus my passion for wildlife became a true reality. 2001, in that sort of general period, I decided to make a change from the ecotourism side and move across into the hunting industry. I'd always had a passion for hunting. My grandfather hunted, my uncles all hunted, and I'd spend a lot of time in the field with other hunters. It was a remarkable place for me to be free and spend time not just killing animals, as most people would think hunting is, but getting close to animals, appreciating them, understanding their ways, understanding the tracks and the signs. And it was that chase that was addictive, not the kill. So moving across as a professional hunter, it wasn't easy. I spent a lot of time guiding clients, but not a lot of time guiding clients as a professional hunter. As a result, today I have the most incredible respect for professional hunters. These are people who have honed their skills and understand the movements of animals. They can predict movements. They read the wind. They read the time of the month. They consider the animals' habitats. A professional hunter is exactly that, a true professional. It didn't come to me naturally. So after spending time in Kenya doing walking safaris in the Serengeti, working with BBC, taking photographs, I felt that the transition to being a professional hunter would have been an easy one. Well, I was wrong. I can confidently say I'm probably the worst professional hunter to have ever graced the plains of the Eastern Cape in South Africa. In that I can personally hunt, but the ability to put a client in front of that animal for that perfect shot, I found it difficult. And as a result, I grew slowly as a professional hunter. I didn't book as many hunts. I got jobs with various outfitters, but it didn't really last long. Until I met a client in camp His name is Ben Hayden, the most remarkable taxidermist. He'd won several world competitions in taxidermy, specifically with reptiles. His snake work was unbelievable. Ben invited me to a taxidermy workshop, which I admittedly, reluctantly went to. I can remember one of my first questions was, "But Ben, can I make some money?" Because I was at a stage of life where I needed to pay for the pickup, feed the Jack Russell, and put food in my mouth. So, yeah, my initial drive to taxidermy was, can I make a buck or two, and can I survive? The very tragic event of 9/11 meant that my entire future would change. I had several clients that were booked to come hunting in South Africa, and I had been allocated as the professional hunter for their safaris. I was a junior guide in these companies, and as a result, those clients were shifted and put up with more senior guides, which left me with the sum total of 0 hunts for the year ahead. And as I mentioned, I had a Jack Russell and a pickup that needed to be paid for. The timing with Ben was absolutely perfect, because at that stage, I needed to make money. He was running a course, and I undertook the course. It was the most incredible 5 days of learning I've had. We shared a lot of laughs, learnt an incredible amount, and with that as a taster of what taxidermy could be, Ben gave me some very good advice, and he said, "Please pursue this, you're going to do well." And yeah, that's where the taxidermy journey began. I was in a position where I got offered a job to open a taxidermy business for a hunting outfitter. I went and joined his company and opened a business for him. The model of being a taxidermist for an outfitter is something that I've learned over the years is not a sustainable model to become a pure taxidermist, a taxidermist who loves the art and is able to portray these animals and expand on the creativity. Because you're always going to be limited by the fact that outfitters have a limited client base, whereas a taxidermist, a pure taxidermist, I could approach outfitters from across the globe and try and solicit business based upon our art level and service offering. Anyway, moving on. I worked for a company. I developed a small taxidermy business, and I had a tremendous learning curve. I think I was very fortunate in that I was in a position where I had a client base at my fingertips. I didn't need to expand outside of the realm of that outfitter in order to gain experience with various species. After 2 years in that business, I made the decision to start my own company. I had an idea of what I expected taxidermy to be. I love animals. I love wildlife. I wanted to join the hunting experience, which is something that is it's so unique to every hunter. I wanted to do the same thing in taxidermy. But to achieve this, I knew I had to do it on my own. So in 2004, I opened Splitting Image Taxidermy. It was a shock to the system, to say the very, very least. There were 6 staff members that joined me on this quest to start this company. Of the 6, 4 of them are still working with Splitting Image Taxidermy today. And they all have key roles. And what's wonderful is that their children are also working in the business. So we're seeing the second generation of incredible artists and administrators, and we're seeing them coming through the business. Where I look at these young guys and go, I've known you since you were 5 years old, and your father was part of the initial foundation that Splitting Image Taxidermy is built on. So there we were, found a premises and started this taxidermy business. So, and I've used this saying many, many times, and anyone who's watched any of the podcasts I've been on previously will recognize this. It wasn't a question of beans and toast. It was a question of beans or toast. The first year, if not 2 years, were tight. It was it was really hard. We did 248 trophies in the first year of business. And anyone who's in the taxidermy business who may be watching this or listening to it, you know that it's hard to make a living off 248 trophies. South African taxidermy models are different to the US. We have to make our own mannequins. We have to tan our own skins. We have to be involved in every step of the taxidermy process. By comparison, in the US, you can order the mannequins, you outsource your tanning, and you can literally set a stand-up in your garage and mount one animal at a time. We can't do that here. In order to get an export license, you need to have a registered facility. To have a registered facility, you have to rent a facility. So it took some fancy footwork to try and get into a property that I could make my own and turn into something that international hunters would want to visit. So there we were. We found the facility, 6 staff, and a pickup that only turned left. One of the first little life lessons that I learned in the taxidermy journey. I'll share the story very briefly. When I test drove the second-hand pickup, the used car salesman said to me, "Come on, let's take it for a drive," which I thought was fantastic. So we turned left, drove up the road. He said, "No, turn left." We drove along long road, and it felt all right. It felt second-hand and was a bit of a rust bucket, but it was moving. And then we turned left and we came back into the yard. I was sold. This was fantastic. I had the money, bought the car. My father was in the area about 2 weeks later after the licensing had been completed, and he picked the vehicle up. When he dropped the vehicle at my premises, he got out and swore that he would never climb in that vehicle again and that it was a death trap. What I didn't know was that vehicle had been in such an incredible accident that it couldn't turn right. So that salesman sold me, and he sold me hard. A good lesson in managing expectations, and I think to this day we, as a company as a whole, believe in trying our very, very best to manage expectations, even when things do go wrong. Needless to say, the left turn vehicle, we chose routes to use the vehicle that you only turned left. Eventually the wheels fell off. Quite literally, one day I got a call telling me that the wheels had all fallen off and the chassis had collapsed. We sold the vehicle for scrap metal, took the money and bought the next vehicle. So there we were. Premises, vehicle, 6 staff, 248 trophies, and it was a long year. But we learned and we grew. And so we grew the next year. And we started to get support from a few outfitters in the area. What is very encouraging is to say that we have outfitters that joined us in the first 2 years of business that still promote our services to their valued clients to this day. That's not saying that we got it right every single time. We got it wrong a lot, but we learned from it, and we've always owned our mistakes and stood up for the client, for the service, for the industry. Splitting Image Taxidermy flourished and grew from there. The premises that we were in then, we added on to it and we built a small shed and we were able to accommodate more. What very few people realize is the house that we worked in doubled as a house in that we mounted in the rooms, and in the evenings the mounts would be shifted to the side. The staff would roll their mattresses out and they slept in the studio, in amongst the mounts, for the first year while we were getting onto our feet. It was a great, great learning curve. A lot of good times were had, a lot of laughs. And then our rent came up for renewal. I remember it clearly. I got notice from the new owner of the premises that they were going to be developing it and we had to move out. They gave us 2 months. So with our bare hands and now having a staff, I think then we'd grown the staff to, I think it was 9 or 11 people. We then found a property nearby and started to develop that. I had property that I'd invested in personally when I came back from East Africa. I sold that to purchase a small piece of land that we were able to develop and build our own taxidermy studio on. That piece of land today houses the dip and pack and raw processing of the entire company and is still in the company's name. We're very proud of it. As we speak at the moment, we're in the process of building a new facility on it that will house a state-of-the-art operation to process dip and pack orders more efficiently than ever. So there we started again on a new premises. Staff started growing, more outfitters came in, and the quality of our work started to grow. It went up and up and up. We spent more time sculpting and developing mannequins. We spent more time testing our hand at new techniques. And we quickly realized that as the young company in the industry, there was a lot of older competition. And all we had to do was work harder, which is what we did. We worked harder. I can honestly say that I learned an incredible amount from the competition that was around us. South Africa's got some incredible artists, companies that have stood the test of times. And they opened their doors and shared secrets, they shared techniques. And I am always going to be grateful for the competition that was out there that drove us, and the competition that opened their doors and said, hey, good luck with what you're doing, I hope it goes well. Never did I dream that Splitting Image Taxidermy would grow to what it is today. 2010, that was an interesting time. I made the decision to move the factory from the farm to Port Elizabeth. It's about 100 kilometers away. But I wanted to retain the raw processing on the farm because my vision was to separate the dirty work from the beautiful work. And many taxidermists, unfortunately, when you walk into the studio, there's that smell of tanning and carcasses. I wanted people to visit my studio. I wanted kids to come in there and children to look at this and go, wow, this is cool, and build a love for animals and for taxidermy. By separating the mounting and the artistry side of the business and the raw processing, we're able to create an environment that is inviting to people. And we often have school groups and visitors, hunters from all over the world, visiting the actual factory, walking through here, and they all say the same thing. Wow, it's cleaner than I thought. It doesn't smell. It's a beautiful place. And that's what we wanted to achieve. So 2010, I looked at moving the factory to Port Elizabeth, specifically the art side of it. We found a small premises and started to grow the concept. The reason being, with hunters passing through Port Elizabeth on their way to the airport, they were able to stop at the factory, view the work in process, and we could get to meet them. Although we had met them in the lodges over the years and always traveled into the hunting areas to meet clients, shake hands, and say thank you for their support. By having a facility in town, it enabled us to show hunters that their investment in Splitting Image Taxidermy was safe. We were a real business. We had a facility, we had pickups that could turn left and right, we had staff, we had computers. The new factory took a while to grow, but we eventually found the premises that we are in today. And we took a leap of faith and literally took on a factory that was miles too big. But with marketing and persistence, we were able to fill the factory, grow into it, and turn it into something that is today a spectacle. It's a wonderful place to visit because it's a creative hub. And from there, we've grown the woodwork department, we've grown the furniture department. We've got 3D labs, tech labs. We manufacture replicas of skulls and animals that are so lifelike you can't tell the difference. We've created multiple jobs that have grown other families and given them opportunities in what can be a tough working environment in a country where jobs are not easily found, especially for the rural folk. So the business grew organically. We learned, we made mistakes, we improved. We learned, we made mistakes, we improved. The mannequins that we produce today at Splitting Image Taxidermy, by comparison to what was then, what we started off with, are worlds apart. The anatomy is spectacular. The poses are creative. We've taken inspiration from some of the world's best taxidermists from across the globe, and we've learned from them, we've adapted, and we've improved in our own way. We've put our signature on it to make it a splitting image of the hunting experience for the clients. So the journey from a 6-man team to what is today a large company where we service hunters from all over the world, it's been one filled with fantastic stories of people who've grown, people who've learned, stories of failures and then getting up and doing it again. There's been times where we question what we're doing. There's been times where we can't believe the luck that we've had. But we've never ever sat down and said, this isn't worth it. As a company, Splitting Image Taxidermy has grown into a well-recognized, reputable, and trustworthy organization. Splitting Image Taxidermy has outgrown my dream tremendously, so, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm at the helm of Splitting Image Taxidermy, but without all the people that make it what it is today, it never ever would have happened. People like Mike Fartley. He's a Xhosa man who has been with the company and worked for me personally for 24 years. His sons work for me. To him, we say thank you, because these are the men that laid the foundation. The woman who started off sewing capes onto mannequins. These are women who are now artists in their own right. And their families are secure knowing that they have long-term jobs that pay them well and respect them and look after them. So the journey from then to now, it's been something of a fairy tale in many respects. For anyone who hasn't seen what Splitting Image Taxidermy is about, our doors are always open. So we invite people to come and see the factory, spend time watching the staff work. The story is only just beginning, because the lifespan of Splitting Image Taxidermy will live on, and it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. It's something that's been, for me, a life's work that's happened in the blink of an eye. It's happened so fast. I can't believe that it's 20 years later and we're producing work for hunters from all over the world. Beautiful work from buffaloes to spring hares to genets to you name it, lions, buffaloes, hippos, skeletal articulations. It's been an incredible journey. This podcast series going forward will cover some of the details surrounding the industry. We get a lot of questions. I'm hoping to answer these questions. I'm hoping that with the insight that we've gained over 20 years, we can help hunters from all over the world prepare for what Africa and South Africa is all about. Whether it's taxidermy, shipping, how the relationship between outfitter and taxidermist works together, as well as stories from people who we've met over the years, the thousands of clients that we've serviced over the years. We're planning on bringing these stories to life and giving it context on how you can plan your adventure in Africa. A Splitting Image Taxidermy is a safe place for me, because it's something that I've watched grow from an idea to something that looks after myself and my family. It's been a tremendous privilege. So that's where it all began. 20 years ago with Splitting Image Taxidermy, a handful of guys and a crazy dream. We just didn't realize that the dream was bigger than we were and was going to take us along and drag us down this incredible road of adventure. Thanks for listening. And I do hope that the podcast series that starts today will be something that enlightens you as much as it has enlightened us. This is a story worth remembering.